So, in our Western culture, we're drawn to the exotic approaches in other parts of the world that hold the promise of helping us get in touch with our inner self. We embrace medicine men from South America and Africa, a lot of it having to do with psychedelics, and we dip into the spirit medicine of indigenous peoples in North America. And then there's the long and steadfast pursuit of holy men from India and other parts of Asia. Now, I can't presume to speak to the motivation overall of why we do this, but for so many of us, religious and spiritual approaches in our Western culture have failed us. And when we're seeking well-being, whatever that might be for you, peace, meaning in your life, emotional healing, we're often desperately seeking answers to how we can find it. And this hunger is why exotic holy men like Yogi Bhajan, and there's a picture of him. I have a large library of various yogic leaders. He arrived from India in the turbulent 60s when young people were foundering and wanting direction. And he gained quite a following as the teacher of Kundalini yoga and the whole lifestyle associated with it. And now a book recently released exposes the devastating shadow side of the charismatic Yogi Bhajan. He died back in 2004 at the age of 75. And the book, Premka, My Life with Yogi Bhajan, authored by a former follower who was swept into his world in 1968 at the age of 25. And for 16 years, she devoutly served him in an existence buffeted by ongoing manipulation, emotional and sexual abuse, and betrayal. And so scarred from that experience that only now, all these many years later, has she summoned the strength to share her truth. And she probably knew what a firestorm would be triggered within the Kundalini, as taught by Yogi Bhajan, community of tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of teachers and students around the world. And as a result, other women now are coming out of the shadows to share similar stories about their experience with Yogi Bhajan. Now, Yogi Bhajan is far from the only spiritual teacher from the East who took advantage of his revered position. Many others, for example, the infamous Bikram of Bikram yoga fame, revealed as an abuser and sexual predator. There's Sak Young Mipham Rinpoche, who the revered American teacher Pema Chodron has distanced herself from because of his reported abuses and raging alcoholism. And Amrit Desai, who was the leader of the Kirpala Center and kicked out because of sexual and financial improprieties. These men took advantage of the devotion of so many of their students who followed them, often uncompromisingly. And that's easy to understand, as these men stand or stood as role models, and coming from the East, they possess that esoteric knowledge that we Westerners see as holding the ticket to transformation. And Premka wrote in her book that, finding her guru, in her words, would be like having her own personal guide through life, an enlightened being who knew the right way to live and who would be dedicated to keeping her on track and safe. Yeah, having a trusted guide to help us along the path, to show us the way, makes good sense. And at the same time, no one else can go inward for us. We need to do the work ourselves. It's a fine line of not putting all our power in another person's hands. So in this respect, we're naked and we're alone, and that is very scary for a lot of people. Premka herself acknowledges how her unhealed childhood wounds of not feeling wanted, and her desire to be loved drove her to idealize and trust the parental role of Yogi Bhajan. And many with unhealed childhood wounds are drawn to the guidance of a paternal or fatherly figure. You know, back in the day, I had a huge gaping father wound, which played out for me in different ways inappropriately with men. And we know in the study of trauma that diverse personalities are drawn to one another like interlocking puzzle pieces. And, you know, let's call them givers and takers, where givers are so desperate for attachment because of the fear of not being loved that they'll do whatever it takes to stay in the relationship. And takers benefit from this dynamic of getting so much more than they give while trying to avoid emotional connection at all costs. Of course, all of this is happening at a subconscious level. And this could very well be a dynamic that you've struggled with or currently could be struggling with in your relationship. But, you know, back to the holy men. As Westerners, so often we put them on pedestals because they bring us ancient, honored teachings and practices that have great wisdom in them, just as Yogi Bhajan did. But we overlook the fact that these holy men have shadow sides that they've not healed. It's like being a professional in our society, a doctor or a lawyer, for instance, where people look up to them, but when they're not doctoring or lawyering, they can be in great pain and suffering themselves, even though they're very good at what they do. So perhaps through this latest revelation concerning Yogi Bhajan, we will be left with more clarity that great teachers are also human beings with unhealed wounds that they may hide very well. Having said that, I believe a new day is dawning. We're just now understanding, and much thanks to my teacher, that difficult emotions actually serve as our inner guidance system. And when we learn this language of emotions, we can heal ourselves from whatever is holding us back. You can become a master of your emotions. This is self-therapy. This is the way of the 21st century and beyond. Becoming a master of your emotions is learning to surf the waves of uncertainty with grace and perseverance. And just like regular surfing, the more you do it, the better you get at it. If something knocks you down, you know how to get up and recover very quickly until you get so good at it, you've surfed yourself into total and absolute well-being. The very definition of becoming a fully awakened being. Wow. So where are you on your path? Drop down to the comments and let me know. And let me know what you think of all this. I love hearing from you. I'm Becca Williams, and I want you to lead a magnificent, loving, generous, calm, abundant life. And I want to help you do that.